Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Poutine Politics. Be sure to keep up with us online and through social media. Our website is poutinepolitics.ca. You can find us on Facebook at Poutine Politics. You can find us on Instagram at Poutine Politics. You can find us on Twitter at Politics Poutine because Twitter thought we were French. We're on YouTube. We also start a Patreon page at Patreon, patreon.com/Poutine Politics. We hope we entertained you enough that you can show us some love and maybe some money. And now, on to the show.
I feel like I should, especially if I'm just going downtown, I should take the bus because I have 2 bus stations less than a 30-second walk from my house, and I take my car. I'm a terrible person. Hey everybody, welcome to Poutine Politics. Canadian issues served with cheese curds. This is Adam.
And this is Mike.
Today, Mike has a special topic for us.
I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. Well, not exactly, considering I don't drive. We're going to discuss about traffic congestion and how some of your conceptions about how the solution to traffic congestion may be counterintuitive. When you hear traffic congestion, what do you think would be one of the things that would possibly solve traffic?
Zipper merge.
Zipper merge, yes. Well, we're not German, so that's not going to happen.
I know. Okay, you know what? This is coming back up the highway today and getting off the highway because of an accident and an off-ramp that has 1 lane and people were making 3 lanes out of it.
Yeah, that definitely causes problems, and there are reasons why I hope to get into as to why. But what do you think most people say can help traffic?
Mass transit. You mean like traffic levels, right?
No, like how can we make it so that way people have less traffic on the roads?
I'll stick with my mass transit answer. So public transit, I guess, is what I mean. Like efficient buses, not like the buses we have here.
Right.
Or in that other big city near us. To be as vague as possible.
Mass transit can work. There's another big one. Most people, when you ask them that question, they think, let's build more roads. And that's a reasonable solution. If you have too many cars on the road, you build more roads.
Like they're doing to the 400 right now?
Yeah, that's not going to solve the problem.
Not at all.
Because there's a famous study, or not study, famous situation where the Katy Highway in Houston, they basically doubled capacity. And from one town outside of Houston, it used to take 45 minutes to get to downtown Houston. They doubled the lanes. And what do you think happened after 6 years?
It took 60 minutes to get there.
Exactly. Genius. And the reason why, it's when you think about it, it makes sense. People will commute the same length of time regardless of where they are. So if there's more opportunities for places to build, then that's what they'll do. They'll just build more places along the highway that they can get to, so then that equals more cars. And what they found, the best way to solve traffic problems is to get cars off the roads, not to build more roads.
Yeah. I feel like that's, you know what? Maybe it won't happen in my working lifetime. But I feel like all these improvements that they're making to the 400, where they're adding more bridges and more on and off ramps, it's like they're planning for the fact that those areas are going to be developed sometime soon if they haven't been developed already, like more housing, more population. And it's like, oh, well, we need to be able to provide more access to the highway because more people are going to use it. And in my head, I'm like, right, more people are going to use it, which means it's going to be even worse to travel on it.
People need to face one fact. Canada's not exponentially growing. It's not like we're gaining enormous amount of population, or even in where we live, where we're just exploding at the seams.
But Mike, the immigrants are going to take our jobs.
We take your jobs! So one of the easiest ways, the thing about traffic is, one thing you need to imagine with traffic is that once you get to a certain level where it becomes congestion as opposed to just, we're all traveling at the same speed. Once it becomes a problem, every single additional car to that traffic congestion exponentially increases the amount of traffic congestion that you have. So it's like you're playing fuzzy bunnies with cars. You're on, stick another marshal, fuzzy bunny, and then another marshal, fuzzy bunny, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. There are some low-cost methods that you can solve this problem, and I'm not encouraging phone usage in driving necessarily, but one of the best things you can do is to pull out your traffic apps that you have on your phone. Because one less car on the road, if you can reduce traffic volume by 10%, you can increase travel times by 50%, just by reducing 10% of the volume on the roads. So if everyone's avoiding accidents, realizing that this part of the highway is slower and they're taking different routes and using the alternate routes, it'll be that much better for them to get to work. So that's one of the best ways to, you pull out, if you have an iPhone, you can pull out Waze. If you have an Android, you can pull out Google Maps. Well, you can pull out Google Maps on an iPhone too. And those are fantastic programs because they real-time update with other drivers about the fastest way to get there. And especially when you have minor traffic problems or even major ones, the less people on the roads, the better every single time. That's why mass transit can work.
I think part of my point with the mass transit was things like the GO, let's say, because they've got GO Transit has the buses and they have the trains, and especially when they did the expansion of the GO train to Barrie, the hope was there were already people commuting from Barrie to Toronto for work, or even on the weekends, because the trains and buses do run on the weekends. So, try and encourage people to take those as opposed to driving your car down to the city and getting stuck in traffic at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. It starts pretty early now. I think the problem is maybe there's not enough volume of, not necessarily ridership, but there's not enough volume of trains and buses. There's not enough seats. If there were more seats, maybe more people would be inclined, or maybe if the prices weren't what they are, they might be more inclined. Because I know it can cost about $250 to $300 a month for someone to take the GO.
You can. The best way to encourage traffic changes is to incentivize people to not drive. And one of the best ways to do that is to charge them for it. So in Sweden, in Stockholm, they have toll gates on all the different bridges to get into the city during different times of the day. And as a result of that, traffic decreased. And then they brought them back. They removed the tolls. Traffic went up again. Brought them back. Traffic went down again. So what you can do to encourage people is that people are always more likely to do more to keep their money than they are to save money, right? Like if I give you 3 beans and I say you can only have one of those, and you may have 1, 2, or 3, you're going to be more upset than if I were to give you 1 bean and then give you bonus 1 or bonus 2, which is what chimpanzees tell you at some point.
I know London, England has like congestion pricing, congestion tolls in downtown, and I think there's something like 15 or 20 pounds a day or something like that, which converts out to around $30 Canadian, something like that.
And other things you can do is that you can charge businesses for workplace parking. Don't make workplace parking free. And the reason why you want to do that is that if they're not driving to their workplace, if they have to meet at a communal place, or they have to offset the time of day that places can open, because if you can offset the traffic, it's not necessarily that there's too many cars for the roads, it's that they're all going at the same time. So if you can have people start at 10 or 11 o'clock as an incentive, then the traffic's not there. There are certain things that are unavoidable, like you're going to get the holiday traffic coming away from the city and things like that. And that's where alternate routes come into play. But if you can avoid the congestion going downtown, right? Like people all the time, there's a famous highway that goes down to Toronto, the Don Valley Parking Way, and everyone calls it Don Valley Parking Lot during the day because you just can't drive on it. It's just stop and go. It wouldn't matter if they expanded the road on that. It would still be the same. The only thing you can really do is if you get people off the roads into other mass transit systems, it does work. And if you make them pay for congestion charge, pay for parking, pay for all these different things, if you can incentivize people to, by loss aversion, to take different routes, it makes all the difference in the world.
So here's a thought. What about incentivizing carpooling? Is there a way that you could incentivize carpooling in the sense, not necessarily a tax credit, but where there would be some sort of benefit to the person who's driving? And I understand that, obviously with a carpool situation, you can have multiple drivers. Like one person will say, well, I'll drive this week. And then
you could. It just, you'll find more people are more likely to do something because they lose money rather than getting a tax credit or anything like that for carpooling. You're always going to have more people to change their behavior if you charge them for it. It's just and you're looking at large numbers here. Like you're not saying the individual because an individual will do something is never the norm, but if you can get 75% of the population to do something, it's fantastic, right? So that's the thing. And you can also make it during peak times, and you can also have almost like gates to get on the highways where you only allow so many cars to get on the highway at a time until the volume's down.
They have that on there's a certain length of the QEW that has, it's not gates, but they do have traffic lights.
Yeah.
Where during high traffic periods of time, the light will be red until a period of time, or, it'll go green every so many seconds until the next car go onto the highway. I mean, mind you, it's only limiting the congestion a little bit, but I guess it's at least something that they decided to try and they still implement during those heavy traffic times a day.
Yeah, it does work. The difference between like the 500th car and the 600th car is just astronomical. I think it's the difference between in congestion can be double between a 10% increase because it's exponential. And it's because when you get on the highway, people switch lanes, they brake, they do all that, and there's always fun sites where you do the brake and the phantom brake all the way back. Like when somebody hit their brakes, and then 10 kilometers back, an hour later, they're still braking because of the one person that saw a squirrel.
Yeah.
So buses and mass transit can work. The thing about that situation is that it's costly. It's not a low-cost solution. So you're not gaining any revenue from it. You're costing money for the government standpoint. Whereas the other ones, they're money generators. Like charging people for workplace parking, that gains the government money. Like it's just that simple. And it's a direct incentive not to. If it's going to cost me $5 to park at the place I have to work, am I going to be willing to drive all the way there? Maybe not. And that's what we want. Like, you don't need everyone to do it. You just need some people to do it. And the other problem is that you don't see it as much in smaller towns, but in bigger cities with grids, is traffic violations. And what I mean that is FedEx, places like that, they double park because they need to drop off one gift. Well, or not one gift, one package. Well, they're going in, and then all of a sudden there's 5 cars deep, 6 cars deep, waiting to get around them. Or people running reds, people passing on the right. All that stuff causes problems. So if you're trying to turn left and it's only supposed to be single lane both ways, but people pass around on the right, well, now you're not going to turn left because you're worried you're going to get an accident because the one person behind them. Well, that's causing traffic problems all the way back because you can't turn left because you're worried that you're going to get T-boned and that it's going to be against you.
Oh, okay. You mean like the person... if it is a situation of it's kind of a single lane except for at the intersection, and if someone is turning left and I'm going straight through, I will be that person that goes around the left turning person on the right because there is that space, even though technically it's meant for people turning right. I guess. I mean, you know what? Mind you, if they took the time to actually paint the lines on the road, other than the yellow lines, they would. I'm assuming that they would probably point an arrow in that right lane that says straight and right, and the left lane would be left only. I could be wrong though. I mean,
no, doesn't. That's what
I know it doesn't necessarily work, but I feel like that's probably what the city would do anyways. When they would get the people to paint the arrows in the lines.
There's the one over that spot, the one that goes left, straight, right hand only, and they go right around on the road.
You have to tell me after which one you're talking about. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Local things. Local things.
What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter. People are so used to passing the right that you can ask people and they will say that it's okay. And it's not. It's never okay. Just like yield signs. People don't know what to do at a yield sign. Guess what? If you're at a yield sign, you can't get onto the traffic, you stop. I don't know why this is such a hard concept. Yield doesn't mean I get to go, you have to move over. Yield means you stop.
Until you can go through.
That even includes if it's onto a major highway. It's still a stop sign for you. That's digressing, though. Yeah.
Well, it's still part of traffic issues. I mean,
it is.
People. You're like this whole thing about following signs. That's part of the problems we have too. You know, again, most people will do a rolling stop in like a non-busy area. You'd hope, but even that could potentially cause an issue if there was just 2 or 3 more cars, right? Because you could have a 4-way stop, and let's say 3 cars are coming up to that intersection, but one person isn't really paying attention, and they decide to rolling stop through it. Well, what are the other 2 people supposed to think who are coming to a stop?
I find in our province we're very much pampered, almost, as far as our knowledge of the road, almost. And you go to, and I always love using this example, Montreal. Montreal, there's 4-way stops everywhere.
Yes.
1-way stops. There's a section of highway called the Turcotte Yards where the oncoming traffic in a major highway, we're talking, 6-lane highway, is on the right-hand side. And I've never been able to understand why. However, there are intersections where there is multiple lanes, like a left-hand turn lane or straight-through lane, and it's a 4-way stop. And they don't have any troubles with it because everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And as long as everyone knows what they're supposed to do, it's fine. But there's no way that this will happen. That's why you'll see a lot more roundabouts. Roundabouts are coming.
Well, we need to adopt them. You know what? Being over in Europe, like traveling over to Europe, and just how many roundabouts there are. Like stop signs are there, but they're for like minor roads, I guess. Like let's say you're driving through a town, a stop sign will be there for a very minor road. When you get to a major intersection, it's not stop signs, it's not lights, it's a roundabout. Almost, I'd say 9 times out of 10, and it's easier. It's just easier.
Oh, and it's so much safer because you eliminate the T-bone.
Yeah,
the T-bone's gone. You get side-on collisions, you get that kind of collisions, but you don't get the drastic. And people have to reduce speeds. Like you can't fly through a roundabout unless you actually want to fly. There's a big push, and something we haven't talked about yet, is that people think that automated vehicles, like driverless cars, will solve a lot of traffic problems. And I think because they can run cars closer together, they're never going to put cars closer together. They need the stopping distance, right? Doesn't matter if there's 4 cars that know exactly what each other are going to do. There's going to always be the one rogue person that wants to drive their 75 Chevy on the road that they have to be mindful of. So you're never going to have a situation where there's going to be 26 automated vehicles in a row and they're 2 inches apart from each other. That's never going to happen. However, what will happen is that there is currently a big trucking driver shortage that can be solved with driverless people. And with a driverless person driving a truck, they can run longer. They can run at odd hours. So they don't have to be on the road during busy times, right? And that's going to be huge. And if they incentivize companies to do that, which they can, to say, hey, listen, we now know that you can run this way. We're going to charge you more if you run this time, and we're going to charge you less. We're going to give you tax credit during this time. And businesses don't work the same way as people do. Businesses understand the bottom line. They go, oh, okay, well, this is tax credit. Oh, yeah, sure, we'll take that. We'll run during off-peak hours.
Walmart's actually, I know they're starting a pilot project, or started a pilot project with that in Arizona, where it's they're starting to use driverless trucks. Well, I should say automated trucks, because there is somebody in the truck. They're just not they're not driving it, right? Or they can take over driving it under certain circumstances, right? Like when you get into a city and you're in tighter areas, right? Like obviously it might make more sense for somebody to have control of the steering wheel at that time, but when they're on the highway, just flick a switch and there you go.
Driverless cars are coming, but it's only a matter of time. I mean, the fact that Tesla wants people to buy their cars and be able to have them Ubered out while they're not in use is
is another issue altogether.
You want me to let me sound all right? Okay.
I see ads on Facebook for a company that's like, earn money by renting your vehicle out when you're not using it, and all the thing I can think is, what is your insurance coverage?
It would work if you were if it was an autonomous vehicle, because then they would know exactly what the insurance cost would be, and it would be much different. But the randoms, I'm sorry, no, there's no way. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting situation. So that's how automated vehicles can really help out with traffic solutions. Another thing that they can do is they also can increase traffic flow. So if you know that you have a city where you have a big plant and everyone gets off at the same time every day, and that's just how the plant works. Like there's nothing they can do. So you can have dynamic traffic lights, which doesn't cost a lot of money, to sequence themselves together to handle the traffic.
Like how Manhattan. If you've ever been on the island of Manhattan, especially on the northern end, obviously there can be a lot of traffic congestion towards the south end of the island because there's a lot going on down there once you get down to Broadway. But the lights are in sequence in the sense that for a, say, minute or 2 minute window of time, all the lights going south on the avenues are turning green in such a way that the traffic can consistently move down the street for a few miles. Is that kind of what you're thinking there?
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do, like that can really help. Increasing bike paths and things like that can also help. Anything you can do.
Now you're going to make people mad at us.
For bike paths?
For bike paths.
Okay.
Get the bikes off the road. As a cyclist, screw those people.
I'm an e-bike person. I mean, an actual cyclist. I actually ride it. I want to put my feet on the pedals. I don't want to be like, sorry, I didn't make that sound. I guess it's the hum that you hear. So there are many ways to traffic. And the traffic problem is dynamic. It's not so simple as to say, oh, well, this is the one. There's no one bill. But the general consensus, you put less cars on the road, you will solve the problem. Building more roads doesn't help. Like we used to have a Pizza Hut in one location in town. They moved it to another location where they've increased the number of lanes. And it's like, well, gee, wonder why they did that. And you think that traffic's not going to go there? Like easily within 5 years, that traffic's going to be there.
Well, especially with everything else they're building there.
Yeah. And it's just because, they wouldn't have built it there if there was no lanes there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If you built the roads, you build the infrastructure, people will come to it because people are willing to drive a certain length of time to do certain things. It's not about, or not willing to drive, willing to take that time. And it's a time factor, right? Like I'm willing to take 30 minutes to get somewhere. I'm willing to take 15 minutes to get somewhere. And wherever that is, however long it takes you to get there is the deciding factor, not how many not based on, during this time of day, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
I'd like to say that I drove to Las Vegas, so I'm okay at taking 4 days to get somewhere. But I am an odd person. I don't know. I prefer driving over flying. I'll fly if I have to, but give me a car any day.
Flying's a neat experience, but yes, mass transit's the way to go. And, it'd be nice if buses didn't have such a bad reputation. That's half the battle. And if you could incorporate some of the congestion tax into decreasing the cost of busing, you would get a lot more ridership too. So part of the reason why I don't take the bus as much as I do is because how much it costs. I'm like, well, I can just walk.
Well, the fact that the bus here, for how small of a system it is not that much cheaper than using the bus in Toronto. And in Toronto, at least, you get the bus, you get the subway, and you can get from one side of the city to the other for $3.25. You can get from one side of the city to the other here for $2.50 But you better hope your bus doesn't run behind, because you're going to wait half an hour for the next bus to show up, not 2 minutes.
Hey, well, at least I have the app now. You know what? You can see
Oh, I missed my bus.
At least you can see where it is.
Oh, you mean it like shows you like the location?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I just missed the bus like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah,
if only I got here on time.
Although the bus says that it leaves at a certain time, it leaves 3 minutes later. It's no that.
Yeah.
By design.
Well, I mean, the bus drivers do need their time for their smokes and their coffee.
No, they started. They just said, we're going to leave 3 minutes after what time we say we're supposed to. Every day, every bus.
I don't know how that solves anything, because the buses are just going to show up 3 minutes later at the end of the line. It doesn't matter. You're still on the same time concept. The buses still have to run every half an hour. Just making it 3 minutes late. It's not like the buses are going to get back to the center of town 3 minutes earlier.
I wish this lie is true. The bus doesn't leave. If it's supposed to leave at 45, it leaves at 48. If it's supposed to leave at 15, it leaves at 18.
I don't even have anything else to say to that. Like, that's stupid. That doesn't even make sense. They're not solving the problem. Hey, look, we're 3 minutes later. 3 minutes later from what? No, you've just changed the times of all of the stops along the way. Now, if a sign up the road says that the bus is going to be there at 25 minutes after, nope, it's going to be there at 28 minutes after. You just pushed the whole thing 3 minutes into the future, into perpetuity.
Oh, but the actual updates on it's still on the old system.
So, in other words, they left the app so that you'll get there early, so that you'll get on the bus before it leaves, right? Something like that?
Yeah, so if the bus is supposed to be at 35, it'll actually be there at 38. So that way if people are late, it's built in, I guess.
They already had that gap built in, though. See, now we're just like... This is okay, though. They already had that gap built in, because the buses would get downtown about 3 minutes before the quarter after or quarter to, or they were supposed to. Now, mind you, before they added that extra line, there was the one bus line that was like, it would take 45 minutes and all the rest of them were half an hour, and all the other bus drivers are like, well, we have our times to meet. And then, yeah, if you need to transfer onto one of the other bus lines, you'd be waiting whatever, you'd be waiting another half an hour. Yeah, I guess you're 15 minutes because your bus is 15 minutes late. At least they fixed that. As far as I know, I don't take the bus.
I do. I take the bus.
I feel like I should, like, especially if I'm just going downtown, I should take the bus, because I have 2 bus stations less than a 30-second walk from my house, and I take my car. I'm a terrible person.
You're not a terrible person.
No, I'm a terrible person. I mean, mind you, if I'm parking downtown for an hour, assuming that there's a parking space, that's cheaper than taking the bus.
When you want to leave both your house and downtown. That's the big difference. And if you're unfortunate like me, where the bus route stops 2 minutes from my house, where if you're unfortunate like me and the bus stops 2 houses from my house, and it still makes more time sense for me to walk to another bus stop because it's going to save me more time. That's how skillful this thing is. The bus comes around my house at 23 after, but if I leave my house at half past, I can get to another bus stop and still be 3 minutes early because,
because the buses are running 3 minutes late.
3 minutes late. And I will be picked up. That's how that system is, because it only runs one way.
I don't know where else we can go with this. I mean,
10 out of 10. Would recommend it.
This is the best episode ever. Next week, we're going to talk about local water issues.
How I stopped drinking water.
Did you have any other points you wanted to cover? All right. So, traffic bad. Autonomous vehicles good, right?
Yeah. Less cars to the road is good.
All right.
No matter what you say.
All right.
And if somebody would ever drop the stigma on e-bikes, we'd all be happy.
Yes. Now, separated lanes. Actually, just for one other point, separated bike lanes would work, in the sense of not a bike lane that's on the road as a lane, but where you actually have like a concrete divider or something like that. Yes. That would be better, and would probably at least somewhat alleviate the frustration of the drivers that are like, bikes shouldn't be on the road. Like I said, I'm a cyclist. I'm perfectly fine using the road. because I know where I belong on the road.
It's only fun when you pass cars.
Well, yeah, we've had that happen sometimes if we're going fast enough and you're on that kind of a road. Of course, we've also had the situation where someone driving a big, I don't know, like an F-250 or something like that. Like it wasn't like a regular pickup truck. It was a bigger pickup truck. And drives by a group of us, like, I don't know, maybe like 10 of us in a line, and drives close enough that, like if I had my elbow stuck out, I would have got hit by his mirror. And then after he passes the group of us, he decides to roll coal.
It's like, dude, we're cycling. We're not driving Priuses.
Yeah.
Like, we're just riding our bikes. It's not Priuses. I understand rolling coal in front of Priuses. That makes me laugh. But in front of cyclists, really? Come on. In front of a Tesla? Again, funny. I would love a Tesla. I'd love to own a Tesla. But it's still funny.
It's okay. They did that. They rolled coal and they probably burned like a quarter of their gas tank doing it. I'm okay with that. All right. Well, this has been Poutine Politics. My name is Adam.
My name's Mike.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.